Well, hello there, and a happy Friday to you and everybody across the Delaware Valley and beyond. Welcome into the PHLY Phillies podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Tyler Zulli with you here on what is finally seeming like a nice Friday afternoon. We've made it to another end of the work week, and a short work week for most if you had off on Monday. Just a 4-day work week. If you did not, I'm sorry. But if you did, it was a shorter week for all of us here at PHLY, and of course you as well. So welcome to another weekend, or on the precipice of another weekend, as we get you set for the final series that starts in May. Now, that seems kind of convoluted, but June is on Sunday. We get to June on Sunday. So today I thought later in the show we would talk about the first 2 months of the season. Who is the Phillies' most valuable player through the first 2 months of the season? Who is the Phillies' most important piece? And not necessarily who's their best player, but who has been the one that has been the buoy for this team over the first 2 months. We'll talk about that. We're going to get into our Ace Hardware temperature check, tell you about who's heating up or cooling down. We'll tell you about what the big deal is in just a little bit as well, and we'll start to preview the Milwaukee Brewers series. And I have a bone to pick with Major League Baseball. And maybe not just Major League Baseball, but official scorers around Major League Baseball. We'll talk about that throughout the show as well. But first, let's get into a recap of the events that were over the last 24 hours. The Phillies win another series. Stack them and stack them and stack them and stack them and stack them. That's what they've done over the last 10 series. The Phillies now, after taking 2 out of 3 from the Atlanta Braves, have won 9 out of their last 10 series. So they win Game 1 yesterday, 5-4. They lose Game 2, 9-3. We'll talk about both of them in just a second. But what the Phillies have done over their last 10 series, which basically dates back to the end of April, all they've done is win series. They are 9-1 in their last 10, with series victories now over the Braves, the Athletics, the Rockies, the Pirates, the Rays, the Guardians, the Diamondbacks, the Nationals, and the Cubs. Some good teams in there, some bad teams in there. But as we talked about earlier in the week, you do what you have to do to get the job done, and you play who you play when you play them. And yes, they played a really awful Rockies team. They played a bad Pirates team. They played a bad Rays team and a bad Nationals team. But they've also now beaten a good Cubs team, a good Diamondbacks team. They faltered a little bit since then, but a good Guardians team, a above average, in my opinion, A's team, and a better than their record states Braves team. Because the Braves were 0-7 to start the year. They were once 5-13. They're now 26-29. So what that tells me is they've won 21 games over their last 35. They're a much better team than they were at the beginning of the season. Their roster's good. They're getting healthy. The Phillies have done what they're supposed to do each and every week for the past 5 weeks now, dating back to April 21st. I'll go back to April 21st for a second, and the reason I do that is because on April 21st, the Phillies were playing the New York Mets. And on that day, it was the first of a 3-game series in which the Phillies were going to get swept out by the New York Mets. And on that day, the Phillies were down 5-1 heading into the 9th inning. Bryson Stott hit a 3-run home run, gave them some life, and they lost the game 5-4. Trey Turner struck out in ugly fashion. Bryce Harper struck out in ugly fashion. And that was the first of the second of 5 consecutive losses for the Phillies. They lost the night before in extra innings after blowing a lead to the Miami Marlins with a chance to sweep them. They then were lifeless in a Wednesday night game against the Mets. A Tuesday night game against the Mets. They lose 5-1. We did a watch along for that. It wasn't fun. Then they lose in extra innings 4-3 to the Mets to get swept. Then they go to Wrigley Field and lose to the Chicago Cubs 4-0 and go from 13-9 to 13-13. And since that day, on April 25th, the 26th game of the year, when the Phillies were 13-13, since that moment, they are 23-7 over their last 30 games. They were 23-6 before last night's game. They were 22-6 before yesterday. All this team has done over the last month of the season is win the baseball games that have been put in front of them. And that's all that I can ask for from a team that has just done nothing but stack series wins. And in fact, the Phillies are the only team across all of Major League Baseball to have won 9 out of their last 10 series. I went and looked at the other playoff teams, at the other division winners. The Detroit Tigers in their last 10 series are 7-3. The New York Yankees in their last 10 series are 8-2. The Seattle Mariners are 6-4. Those are your 3 American League division winners right now. The Chicago Cubs, leaders of the National League Central, are 6-4. The LA Dodgers, leaders of the National League West, are 8-2. The New York Mets, who are right now in a wild card spot, are 6-4. The point being is, all of these teams are playing good baseball. And if you can go 7-3 over the course of a 10 series sample size, you're going to really start to put some distance, not only between yourself and the teams below you, but yourself and 500. The Phillies are 9-1 in their last 10 series. The only series loss came to the St. Louis Cardinals in the middle portions of May. I believe it was May 12th through the 14th. They played a doubleheader against the Cardinals on the 14th. Other than that, they have won every single series to this point since that series loss to the New York Mets. I can't ask for anything more. And at this point, and Ray Schumacher points it out, it's a 77% winning percentage. Like, you're not going to win 77% of your games for the rest of the year, but to win 77% of your games over a 30-game sample size, which is just a little less than 1/5 of the season, that's all I can ask for. And that's what the Phillies have done. Now, if you want to talk about yesterday's game, let's start with the first game of the series, which was a 5-4 win for the Phillies. And I talked a little bit about it in the pregame show yesterday, so we're not going to deep dive X's and O's yesterday's game, but they win 5-4, and they did exactly what they were supposed to do. I thought this was, without question, the best game of Rafael Marchan's season so far. Now, small sample size for Marchan as the backup catcher. Obviously, JT Realmuto has had most of the starts behind the plate, but this was a game that the Phillies called upon Marchan to catch, and he delivered. His first home run of the season. 3 RBI, including the game-winning RBI on a hit by pitch. He scored twice, and not only was he good offensively, he threw 2 runners out on the base paths as well, including one in the in the top of the 9th, when Jordan Romano was not on his game. Romano walked 3 and gave up a hit. He gave up 4 base runners, but did not give up a run. I think in large part because of the fact that Rafael Marchan was able to wipe the base runner off the base paths in the 9th for a big out. Romano strikes out the other 2, and they win the game. And we talked about it on the pregame show. Was yesterday Christopher Sanchez's best start of the season? No, it wasn't. I mean, I don't think he had great command. I thought the touch on the changeup early was not there. I thought the command of the slider early was not there. But all of that is to say, Christopher Sanchez went 5 2/3 yesterday and allowed 2 earned runs. He gave up 7 hits, but he only allowed 2 earned runs. He struck out 5. In a game that was not Christopher Sanchez's best, and I've said this plenty of times about Jesus Luzardo this season as well. In a game that was not Christopher Sanchez's best stuff, where he didn't have his best command, where I thought he was fighting himself a lot in yesterday's game, he pitched into the 6th, gave up 2 earned runs, and gave the Phillies a chance to win the game. And win the game they did. And that's kind of been a common theme for this Phillies pitching staff for a majority of the season. Outside of the bad Aaron Nola starts, and outside of the rare occurrence from one of the other guys, whether it be Luzardo or Sanchez, or like last night in Zack Wheeler, the Phillies starting rotation is giving this team a chance to win night in and night out every single game. And when they're not on their best, they battle. When they're not at their best, they grind. And that's what Christopher Sanchez did yesterday. The velo was down a little bit, only threw 47% of his pitches for strikes in game one. Only 19% of his sliders found the zone. But it was enough to get the job done. When the changeup was on, it was effective. He got 7 whiffs and called strikes on 21 pitches. That number's low for him with the changeup. He usually gets a lot of whiffs on the changeup. He didn't get nearly as many in yesterday's game, but he battled enough and did exactly what he was supposed to do to command the zone enough to get the win. And that's what the Phillies have done each and every start for the most part. Now we turn to the nightcap, where Zack Wheeler was not at his best. And what am I going to sit here and do? Am I going to crush Zack Wheeler? First of all, that would just be stupid. And second of all, that would be me picking one start out of the 12 that he's made so far. I can tell you right off my head, I don't need to look at the numbers. Of the 12 starts that Zack Wheeler's made so far this year, he's made 9 good starts. And I think he's made 3 bad starts. If you're talking about a guy making 75% of his starts being good, what much more can I ask for out of anybody? But your ace is the guy that you lean on, and he's been that guy for a majority of the season. He has a sub-1 whip once again. He struck out 94 hitters in 76 innings pitched. In 12 starts, he's 6-2 with a 2.96 ERA. And as I said, nine of his 12 starts this year have been good. Opening day, he was excellent against the Washington Nationals. Followed that up with another really good start against the Rockies. He had 2 back-to-back bad starts against the Braves. And this is the unfortunate part for Zack Wheeler, where two of his three worst starts of the year have come against the Atlanta Braves. But he wasn't very good against the Braves, and then he struggled with his command against the St. Louis Cardinals in what ended up being a 7-0 loss for the team. Since that moment, between then and last night's start, he had given up 2 earned runs or less in 7 consecutive starts. In his last 3 starts before last night, he had given up no earned runs. He had a 22 2/3 inning scoreless streak heading into last night. It stopped at 25 2/3 innings. I'm not going to get on Zack Wheeler for one bad start. You know, even the best have clunkers every now and then. Does it suck that 2 of his 3 bad starts have come against Atlanta? Sure, it certainly does. It's unfortunate. But you're talking about a guy who, if you strip away those 3 bad starts and simply look at the 9 good starts, which is not entirely fair to the entire conversation of the season, but if you were to take a look at the utmost good, he's given up 15 earned runs across 16 2/3 innings pitched in those 3 bad starts. If you strip away those 15 earned runs and those 16 2/3 innings pitched, he's thrown 59 1/3 innings pitched and given up 10 earned runs in 59 1/3 innings pitched. And as Pat Ryan points out, it was a random bad start. Everybody has them. The best pitchers in baseball get hit around from time to time. And if you're going to give me a guarantee that Zack Wheeler, or any starting pitcher for that matter, can give me 75% of his starts over the course of a season are good starts, are really good starts in points, I'm not going to complain. It was one bad start. I flush it, I move on. I said it on the postgame show last night. I flushed last night's game and I move on. They have earned the benefit of the doubt of flushing those bad games when they do what they did on Tuesday night and then again on yesterday afternoon. Because if you were coming into last night's game and saying, man, it's going to really be a difficult task. They're 1-1. They split the first 2. They got to beat Sale. It's great to have Wheeler on the mound, but they've got to beat Sale. Then sure, you go, man, this, the onus is on them. Let's see, can they win the series? But even if they didn't win the series last night, they'd still be 8-2 in their last 10 series. They would still have been 8-1 heading into that series. And as K-Red points out in the chat, baseball gonna baseball. Baseball's a sentence sometimes. I said last night to Julia on the in-game show, baseball is, and you've heard me say this before, baseball is the most beautifully stupid game on the planet. Weird things happen. Baseball's a noun. It's an adjective. It's a describer. It's a sentence. Because weird things happen in baseball all the time. And Zack Wheeler didn't have his best stuff last night. oh well. You flush it and you move on. I expect Zack Wheeler to turn in a really quality start on his next start, which I believe will come against the Toronto Blue Jays. I don't expect anything less. Phillies took the series. They did what they were supposed to do. And all they've done over the last 10 series is win and win and win. And so right there, that's our series, our recap. I don't think you have to look too far into the advanced metrics. We don't have to do too much into, stat-heavy stuff, nerd stuff. I think we can surface-level conversation this series. And the surface-level conversation is they did what they were supposed to do. And they continue to stack series wins. They are 9.5 games above the Atlanta Braves in the National League East standings. They're 2 games ahead of the New York Mets for control of the National League East. They have the second best record in all of baseball. Only the Detroit Tigers, who have one more win and the same amount of losses, have a better record than the Philadelphia Phillies. All right, let's pause for just a moment. On the other side, we are going to get into our big deal segment. We'll talk about our Ace Hardware temperature check segment, and we'll wrap things up with a couple of fun segments that I checked in with our Discord. I want you to participate in the chat as well. And I have a bone to pick with Major League Baseball because of the fact that apparently they're just deciding they don't want to do one particular thing anymore. All right, let's pause for just a moment here on the PHLY Phillies podcast and tell you about some of our friends here at PHLY. All right, let's start with our presenting sponsor of today's show. It is Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, and 90 million users worldwide have found that out because they live stream 780,000 live events each year. But it's not just your Big Four or soccer or college sports. They live stream and live in-game bet over 78 different sports. You can find anything that you want on Bet365. For example, when I was looking at my series betting preview numbers for today, it's not just your Big Four. You can bet on the PGA Tour. You can bet on men's and women's French Open. You can bet on Australian rules football, badminton, boxing, cricket, cycling, darts, handball, MMA, lacrosse, rugby. There are sports that I have not heard of on this app, and that's the best thing about Bet365. Bless you, Joe. That is the best thing about Bet365 is you can get in on all of the action. And if you're a new user to Bet365, download the app, use the promo code PHLY365, and deposit $10, bet just $5, and win $150 back or earn $150 in bonus bets, whether your $5 bet wins or loses. You can bonus bet, use your bonus bets for spreads, totals, props, futures, and so much more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, our Ashley Fan Cave sweepstakes. Imagine your fan cave with a bold new centerpiece, the Mod Max sectional from Ashley. And now imagine on top of that, you can get it for free. PHLY has teamed up with Ashley to give one lucky winner the chance to bring home this ultra comfortable sectional, plus not just the free sectional, plus a $1,000 gift card to bring your dream fan cave to life. The Mod Max sectional is spacious. It's built for the diehard Philly sports fan. So whether you're hosting a sport night, you're kicking back with the fam, or it's game day and you're thinking about upgrading your space, head on over to Ashley and allphly.com/Ashley to learn more about the contest, to see if you're eligible. You can fill out all of your information, and just like that, boom, you're in the running. But don't wait, because this sweepstake does not last forever, so get your entry in now, and you could be watching the next big game on your brand new Mod Max sectional, courtesy of Ashley. Again, visit allphly.com/Ashley for full contest information and eligibility requirements. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli here. Big shout out to Joey for producing today's show. Hello to everybody in the chat. Really quickly, want to go through. Say hello to Pat Ryan, K-Red, Molly and Barkley's Life, Ray Schumacher, Mopar, Peeling Onions. Who else do we got in the chat? Philly Sports Enjoyer. Thank you to everybody who's checking in. Hello to all of you. Molly and Barkley's Life says Rob Manfred is a tool bag. We're going to talk about Rob Manfred. And I don't think this is directly Rob Manfred's doing, but I think he has a part. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And it actually has nothing to do with robot umpires. I guess it has to do with scoring, but it doesn't have anything to do with robot umpires. And yes, Pat Ryan, anyone know anything about the relief pitcher that the Phillies got from Toronto? I talked about him a little bit on the postgame show last night. High ERA across 27 appearances with Toronto. The strikeouts are good. Whip is not. Gives up a ton of hits, has surrendered 14 walks in 27 innings pitched over his 3 years. Doesn't have a whole lot of track record in the major leagues. Has been moved around quite a bit in his minor league career. Gave up cash considerations. He's going to report to AAA. He's a depth piece. He's a body in AAA. He's going to be on the 40-man roster. I would not expect him to be much more than kind of like you saw with Brett DeGuss yesterday, maybe be a 27th guy or be a AAA depth piece. So I don't expect a whole lot from him, but that's kind of your 30-second spiel on this guy. All right, let us get to our first sponsored segment of the day, and our first sponsored segment of the day is the Ace Hardware Temperature Check, which, of course, is brought to you by our friends over at Ace Hardware, where we check in on who's heating up or who's cooling down for the Philadelphia Phillies. And today I thought I would check in on somebody who's heating up because our last two Ace Hardware Temp Checks have been cooling down. Who's heating up for the Phils? That, of course, would be Ranger Suarez. Ranger Suarez is a hot button conversation piece because we talked about it on John Mark's show today with Philly. We've talked about it a lot over the last couple of months. Will Ranger Suarez be a member of the Phillies next year? Will Ranger Suarez be a member of the Phillies at the trade deadline? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know the answer to either of those questions, but we'll talk more about that specific conversation in the big deal because we may be talking about a trade deal in the future. But let's talk specifically about Ranger Suarez's stats and why he's heating up over the last 4 starts. Ranger Suarez has made 5 starts this year. He had 1 bad start. We were talking about Zack Wheeler's good start to bad start ratio. Well, Ranger Suarez has an 80% good start to bad start ratio, and he is heating up since that first bad start where he went 3 2/3, really got hit around by the Arizona Diamondbacks, gave up 7 earned runs, did strike out 6, but faced 7 batters and allowed 9 of them to get on base. Really, really struggled with both his command and his stuff. Since that point, he has gone 26 2/3 innings pitched and allowed 3 earned runs. 3 of his last 4 starts, he's giving up no earned runs. 7 innings, no earned runs against the Cleveland Guardians in a 7-1 win. 6 2/3, no earned runs in a 2-0 win over the Colorado Rockies. And then 6 innings on Tuesday night in a 2-0 win against the Atlanta Braves. 6 innings, 7 innings, 6 2/3, 7 innings. He's pitching deep into games. He's working quickly. He's only thrown over 100 pitches once. Now he's gone at 98 and 99, so a little bit of a cherry pick stat. But Ranger Suarez has been excellent for the Phillies since returning to the rotation. In those 4 starts, he's only given up 27 base runners over those 26 2/3 innings pitched. He has struck out 5, 6, 6, and 8 in the last start against the Braves. He's really kept hitters off balance. He's mixed his pitch as well. He's always been a guy who has mixed his pitch as well. But I think when Ranger finds his most success is when he is able to identify early what his next pitch on that day is going to be. So is it going to be the changeup? Is it going to be the cutter? Is it going to be the breaking ball? When he's able to define what his next pitch is and play it off of the sinker and use it early in the game, that's when Ranger's at his best because then he becomes a 2-pitch guy. And I don't mean 2-pitch guy meaning he's only throwing 2 pitches, but you're trying to determine between those 2 pitches and you also have the other 3 or 4 to work with, right? So you know that the cutter is going to be involved. You know that the 4-seam fastball is going to be involved. You know that the curveball is going to be involved. And it's a matter of what's the other pitch that he can mix sinker and pitch to. And in the game against the Braves on Tuesday night, that pitch was the changeup. The changeup was excellent for Ranger Suarez in the game on Tuesday night. He kept the hitters off of balance. It was a right-handed heavy lineup for the Braves, and they did that intentionally, with Ranger Suarez on the mound. So when he's able to keep right-handed hitters off balance, that's where Ranger's at his best. He's never going to blow you away with a fastball. He throws 91 to 9. Sometimes he can ramp it up to 94, 95, but most of the time, with the fastball and the sinker, he's sitting 91, 92, maybe 93. But what he does is keep you off balance. He's a professional pitcher. He knows how to pitch. This has been the thing with Ranger Suarez for me. I have touted Ranger Suarez as the ultimate pitcher's pitcher. And what I mean by that is, he doesn't have to rely upon heavy stuff. I don't think Ranger has a blow you away. In fact, I know Ranger doesn't have a blow you away fastball. I don't think Ranger has that elite breaking ball, right? That wipeout sweeper, that wipeout slider, a splitter that's heavy. If I were to be honest with you, and I'm lining up all of the starting pitchers for the Phillies, and I talk about, maybe we'll exclude Taijuan Walker from this conversation. If I think about Wheeler, Luzardo, Sanchez, Nola, and Ranger. If I think about the 5 of those guys, and you said to me, who has the worst, best pitch? Now, that seems like an oxymoron. But if you said to me, what's everybody's best pitch? I think it's very easily identifiable for at least 3 of those guys. Zack Wheeler's best pitch is his fastball. There is no question about it. He wants to pound the fastball up in the zone on your hands. He wants to throw heavy fastball. Last night he threw 52 of them. He is a heavy fastball overlay, and for good reason. He's dropped his arm slot, he gets that rise, and he's able to get you to swing and miss on the fastball. And it's 97, 98 when he needs it to be. There's no question about it. Zack Wheeler's best pitch is his fastball. Let's go to Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola, who doesn't throw particularly hard, his best pitch is his knuckle curve. And when his knuckle curve is on, and when it's dancing, that is definitively his best pitch. I'm going to say one that maybe I would have never said 6 or 7 or 8 weeks ago. If I were to say what's Jesus Luzardo's best pitch, well, it didn't exist until this season. I think Jesus Luzardo's best pitch this year has been his sweeper, which is crazy to say because he's never thrown it before this. He was a fastball, slider, changeup guy. And we've talked a lot about the slider, how it's that tight gyro slider, not a lot of break, but it's heavy break it's heavy movement at the end, it's late movement. We've talked a lot about that. I think this season, Jesus Luzardo's best pitch has been his sweeper. He's wiped out left-handed hitters with it, and it's why his strikeout rate is so high. Now, his fastball's always been good. His slider's always been tight and good against right-handed hitters. His changeup was always good against right-handed hitters, but now he has an effective wipeout, strikeout pitch against left-handed pitchers. And then with Christopher Sanchez, there's no question. Even with added velocity, even with him relying on the slider a little bit more than he has in years past, Christopher Sanchez's changeup's one of the probably 15 or 10 or 15 best single pitches in all of baseball. So if I give you knuckle curve for Nola, changeup for Sanchez, I think sweeper this season for Luzardo, and Wheeler fastball, if I ask you what's Ranger's best pitch, on any given night, I don't know the answer to the question. On any given night, it could be a different pitch. And that's the beauty of Ranger Suarez. And that's why we do this exercise. What's his best pitch? Last night or Tuesday night, I think it was his changeup. Some nights I've seen it be his sinker, where he just misses bats enough, where he gets a lot of pop-ups, induces a lot of weak contact, where he gets a lot of breaking bats when he runs the sinker in on the hands to lefties and away from righties. But on any given night, I don't know what Ranger Suarez's best pitch is. And that's not an insult. That's a compliment to say this guy is a complete pitcher. It's a compliment to say he's got a mix of 6 different pitches, and on any night, 3 might work or 4 might work. And once he identifies the 3 or 4 that do, and really the 2 best, whatever fastball variation it is and whatever off-speed pitch variation it is, that's when he can start working off of it. That's what makes Ranger Suarez so effective. And 2, on top of that, I think the other thing with Ranger Suarez, and we've seen this for years now, especially in the postseason, he's nails when it matters. He's gritty when it matters. The last 2 games that he has pitched and where he's gone 12 and 2/3 scoreless innings, where he's given up 16 base runners, but 0 runs because he struck out 14 and worked out when it matters the most, he's won back-to-back 2-0 games. Ranger Suarez is comfortable in pitching in the uncomfortable. Ranger Suarez is comfortable in pitching in tight spots. I think back to last year's playoff game where he pitched against the Mets. Phillies inevitably end up losing that game. Ranger Suarez had nothing in that game because he battled injuries all for the second half of the season, right? Had the back injury, was amazing for the first month and a half, 2 months of the season, had the injury, came back, went back to the IL again, and made the start in Game 4 of the postseason. Stuff-wise, he had nothing in that game. But you know what he did? He just pitched, man. He just pitched and was gritty and he battled, gave up a ton of base runners, but he battled each and every time. Ended up pitching into the 5th, which when my expectations for him heading into that game was to maybe get through the lineup twice, or maybe get through the lineup once and then give me a little something extra. Rangers nails when it matters most. And, Peel and Onions talks about before the injury, sub-2 ERA. He was never the same pitcher last year after the injury. And the question mark about Ranger Suarez has always been, can he be a guy who gets you close to 200 innings? Because his career high is 155. Last year, he threw 150. In 2022, he threw 155. Those 2 seasons where he made 27 and 29 starts are his 2 best seasons ERA-wise of his career, 3.6 and 3.46. But the thing with Ranger is he's a chameleon. And again, when I say that, I mean that in the most complimentary way possible. He is a chameleon to the Phillies, and he can be what you need him to be. Now, come postseason time, is he going to start? Is he going to move to the bullpen? That question remains to be seen. Is he going to be here? I don't know. And that's going to be our big deal segment coming up in just a second. But our Ace Hardware temperature check segment, which of course is brought to you by our friends over at Ace Hardware, where we check in on who's heating up or who's cooling down. Ranger Suarez is definitively heating up over the last 4 starts. All right, let's pause for just a moment. On the other side, we're going to get into our segment, which of course we call The Big Deal. No surprise, we're going to continue the conversation on Ranger Suarez. We'll do that, and then we'll wrap things up with our Discord chat, which was a question that I asked our Discord earlier in the day, and I'm going to ask you in our chat as well, and then we'll wrap things up with the bone to pick, the bone of contention that I have with Major League Baseball. But let's pause for just a moment. We'll tell you about some more of our friends here at PHLY. If you're looking to hire, if you're a small business owner, then you need LinkedIn, because as a small business owner, you know your business is at the forefront of your mind and at the conversation all the time. You don't have the benefit of clocking out and letting somebody else take control of your finances or of your business or whatever it might be. So if you're looking to hire the best candidate possible, LinkedIn and LinkedIn Jobs has your back, because they want to grind just as much as you do to make sure that you find the best candidate possible. They make it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates that you can manage all in one place. They offer an incredible feature that's going to help you write your job description and then get it posted in front of qualified candidates that are going to give you the deepest pool to find the best candidate for you possible. Now, you can post your job in one of 2 different ways. You can post your job for free, or you can pay to promote, and promoted jobs get 3 times more qualified candidates. Listen, at the end of the day, the most important thing for you is your small business, and the quality of candidate that you receive is going to go a long way to making that small business a success. Find out why more than 2.5 million small businesses have used LinkedIn for hiring today. Find out your next great hire at LinkedIn. So you can post your job for free at linkedin.com/Phillies. Once again, that is linkedin.com/Phillies to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, it is outdoor season. Hopefully, finally, maybe it'll stop raining at some point. And when it comes to outdoor season and it comes to hanging out and having a refreshing, cool, crisp, light beer that's not going to fill you up, that's just 96 calories, it's Pabst Light. And Pabst Light is the new light beer on the market. It's a modern beer from Pabst Brewing Company. You've heard of Pabst for years. They've been around forever. And the reason is because they make a good beer. And now they've ventured into the light beer department. As the summer heats up and you want to have a couple, but you don't want to be slugging IPAs, or you don't want to be having those really filling beverages, head on over to Pabst for that new light beer. 96 calories, just 3.5 grams of carbs, and it's full of crisp and refreshing flavor. They use high-quality ingredients so that you know that you're going to get a high-quality beer at a smart and approachable price. You can retain the fun and independent spirit that Pabst is known for, but in a light beer. Learn more about the new Pabst Light at pabstlight.com. Please drink responsibly. Must be 21 or older. As I drink my water, excuse me for 1 second. Joe, what's up, man? How's everything going?
What's going on, man? How you been?
I am well. Joey producing today's show, as he has been for the last couple of weeks now. You and I have formed pretty much our PHLY Phillies tandem at this point, I think.
Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy. I'm just doing the show now.
Well,
hanging out with you.
Listen, I said to you when you first started, like, this is a moving train that doesn't stop, and you just kind of have to hop on.
Definitely,
and you certainly have.
Definitely does not stop. It's really fun though.
So Joey producing today's show. Everybody give a thumbs up in the show for Joe. Joe has done an excellent job over the last few weeks. All right, before we get to the big deal segment, which is brought to you by our friends over at Cherry Hill Kia, once again, hello to everybody in the chat. We're going to talk more about Ranger Suarez in just a second, because this is the big deal segment. Excuse me. It's brought to you by our friends at Cherry Hill Kia. Listen, I understand that people buy Kias elsewhere. I just don't know why. Head on over to cherryhillkia.com to find all of the latest information. They are open 24/7 online, or of course you can head on over to Cherry Hill Kia, just moments over all of the bridges, to get you in the next Kia as quickly as possible. Beautiful Sportages and just an incredible selection of different options, whether you're looking for a midsize, a sedan, an SUV. I am not in the market just yet for a car, but my next car is going to have to be larger than my sedan that I have now. And I know Cherry Hill Kia is going to have my back. And when I look for that maybe crossover, that midsize that I'm going to be looking for next. But welcome into the big deal segment here on PHLY. And again, it's brought to you by our friends over at Cherry Hill Kia, where they treat you like family. The big deal today is the impending free agency of Ranger Suarez. We just spent a lot of time speaking of Ranger Suarez and singing his accolades. And now we have to talk about what the next 6 months or so holds for Ranger Suarez. He's an impending free agent after this season. I personally have said for a while, I don't expect Ranger Suarez to be back with the Phillies in 2026. I do truly believe that this is the swan song season for somebody that we have all really come to love, not just because he is a good pitcher, as we've laid out, but because of the fact that he's a homegrown talent, because of the fact that he signed for, I believe, $15,000 out of Venezuela at 16 years old. He's an awesome story. And on top of all of it, he seems like a great guy. People love to watch Ranger pitch. He pitches with joy. I've always likened him to having like that childhood, wonderment on the mound. And he pitches that way. He loves the game of baseball. He doesn't get overly emotional. He pitches with a stoicism that is matched with that joy of playing the game. So we've all come to love Ranger Suarez. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody across baseball that doesn't like, across Philly at least, that doesn't like Ranger Suarez. But there is a business side to the game. And the business side is, does Ranger Suarez and his agent, who unfortunately for the Phillies happens to be Scott Boras, want to explore the market? I wouldn't blame them if they would. If I were Ranger Suarez right now, I would not sign an extension at this point. Maybe I would have considered it in the offseason. But if I were Ranger Suarez and I were in he and Scott Boras' position, especially knowing the fact that he's pitched well over the last 5 starts, and the Phillies are, they could use him, they need him, and other teams also probably feel the same way, I wouldn't be in a rush to sign a contract either. And that's where the big deal comes in. What does the deal look like for Ranger Suarez? Whether it's a contract extension with the Phillies or a free agent signing elsewhere, what does that contract look like? So, we've talked about this before. I went back and I looked at the last couple of seasons of free agent signings and what starters got in the free agent market. Now, guys like Shohei Ohtani, blow the market open. Max Fried got an incredible amount of money. Aaron Nola got an incredible amount of money. I don't think any of those guys are going to, I don't think Ranger Suarez is going to get $325 million. I'm not foolish to think that. I don't even think Ranger Suarez gets the 170 that Aaron Nola got. But I do think that Ranger Suarez's contract will easily start at $20 million a season. Easily. So I looked back over the last couple of years. Eduardo Rodriguez got 4 years and $80 million from the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, he came off a really excellent season with the Detroit Tigers, but has not pitched well and has not pitched often for the Arizona Diamondbacks since being signed. He was injured a lot last year, hasn't pitched particularly well over the first 2 years. I think Ranger, first and foremost, because Ranger is younger than Eduardo Rodriguez at the time of signing by a few seasons. And B, I quite frankly, I think teams will value Ranger Suarez's, first of all, being left-handed. And second of all, I think they're going to value his consistency when he is on the mound more than what teams valued Eduardo Rodriguez. Everybody else underneath Rodriguez got smaller deals. Now, if Shota Imanaga, who signed for a 4-year, $53 million deal, were to have had a major league track record and wasn't coming from Japan, would have gotten significantly more money. I think Imanaga is better than Ranger Suarez. But like the rest of the guys that were signed, Sonny Gray got 3 for $75, about $25 million. I think Ranger probably gets more years, but that's about the threshold that I'm thinking. Seth Lugo got 15 a year. Ranger's going to blow past that. And then everybody else, like Jordan Hicks and the Marcus Stromans, Lucas Giolito's, the Michael Wakas, Ranger's going to get more than all of those guys that signed in 2024. So let's take a look at the 2025 offseason. Now, again, I don't expect him to get 8 years that Max Fried got. I don't expect him to get 6 years that Corbin Burns got at 210. But if you're thinking about 3 or 4 years, Blake Snell got, Sean Manaea, Blake Snell got a lot of money. He's not going to get Blake Snell money. Sean Manaea got 3 for $75. I think Ranger gets more than that. Nate Eovaldi, I have no idea how got 3 for $75 because Nate Eovaldi is better than Ranger Suarez. He only got 3 for $75. I think Ranger's going to get more, but if I were to say, hey, you could sign Nate Eovaldi or you could sign Ranger Suarez, you're going to sign Nate Eovaldi. Some of the rest of the, like Tanner Scott's a closer, obviously, got crazy money. The rest of the signees, Luis Severino, 3 for $67. Yusei Kikuchi, 3 for $64. Nick Pivetta, 4 for $55. I think that Ranger's going to find himself making more money, or at least per year making more money than what these guys got. What does a Ranger Suarez deal look like? I think it probably is 4 years, and I think it's probably $90 to $100 million. I think that's probably where it sits, somewhere between $22 and $25 million a season. Maybe I'm overblowing this. Maybe I'm overvaluing what the market's going to be on Ranger Suarez, but I think 90 to 100 is probably in the right sample size. So are the Phillies looking to spend that kind of money? Knowing that JT Realmuto comes off the books, knowing that who else is off the books this year? It's JT. It's, oh my goodness, who am I missing? I can't believe I'm blanking on this. Oh, Kyle Schwarber, but you're going to have to if you let Kyle Schwarber walk, I think it's front office malpractice. And then there's one other big time player's contract that I believe comes off the books. And I forget who it is, but anyway, they've got some money to play with. But Kyle Schwarber, again, is going to need to get extended. It's going to be way more than the average yearly salary that he makes this year. Do you bring back JT Realmuto, and what does that look like? I think it's less money, but it's still do you bring him back? You're still spending $12 to $15 million, even if it's not the 20, what's he making this year? 25, I think it is. He's going to get less, but he does, he 23 this year, so he's going to command some money. And then you have to think about a potential extension for Jesus Luzardo or arbitration that's more than this year. What does Alec Boehm end up getting in next season? What does, and so you start to pair those together. Do you pick up the option on Jose Alvarado? Yes, it's Bohm. Excuse me. Thank you. I believe Alec Bohm is in the final year of arbitration this year, which would make him a free agent. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He's in the final year of arbitration next year, but he's going to make more money. He's a free agent after 2027. But the point is, you still have to maneuver some of this money around. Do you bring back Jordan Romano, who's on a one-year deal? All of these things are to be into consideration. So what does a Ranger Suarez deal look like? To put a bow on this conversation, what does a Ranger Suarez deal look like? I think it's probably in the $90 to $100 million range, and I think it's probably 4 years. Are the Phillies willing to make that commitment? I don't know the answer to that question. And if they're not willing to make that commitment, it goes back to the conversation that we had in early March. Do they trade Ranger Suarez at the deadline? I have been of the belief that I would not do it. I think Ranger Suarez is valuable to the Phillies this season, more so than trying to accumulate assets. Now, if the asset is an everyday center fielder, I think you probably have to have the conversation. If the asset is a premier closer, you may have to have the conversation. If the asset is prospects, I think you keep Ranger Suarez and you allow him to test the open market. So with that being said, I think right now the course of action that the Phillies are going to take is Ranger Suarez pitches out the rest of the season, whether it is as a full-time starter, which I expect, or as a weapon in the postseason, which could be the case. I think he's more valuable to you to this postseason run than he would be to try to move him. Again, with the caveat that it doesn't bring back an everyday center fielder or it doesn't bring back an elite level closer. And that remains to be seen. All right, that is our big deal, which is brought to you by Cherry Hill Kia. Of course, again, I know that people buy Kias elsewhere. I just don't know why. Head on over to cherryhillkia.com or head on over to Cherry Hill, just a couple of minutes from the bridge. Now, I do have a couple questions here, Joe. I know a couple comments have come up since we were having this conversation, and maybe it plays into the big deal segment. Is it true that the Eagles were able to find a trade partner for Bryce Huff?
I don't know. No.
Oh, yes. Zach Berman just tweeted it out 2 minutes ago.
Really?
The Eagles are working to finalize a deal that will send Bryce Huff to the 49ers for a mid-round pick. The trade will not go into effect until after June 1st. So Zach follows up. Eagles are reworking Huff's deal to facilitate the trade. The Eagles will save almost $8 million in cap space and create $15 million in cap space with a reworked deal, which would include taking on $9 million in Huff's salary, and the 49ers pay the remaining $7.95. Howie Roseman's a freaking wizard. Unbelievable that he was able to find a trade partner for Bryce Huff. What does a mid-round trade mean? To me, mid-round means like 4 or 5. Probably 5, right? But the fact that you were able to facilitate this deal and get almost $8 million worth of have the 49ers take on almost $8 million of this deal and create $15 million in cap space with the rework deal. Howie Roseman's a freaking wizard. How does he keep getting away with this stuff? Dude, if I were an opposing GM, I kid you not, I know we say this hyperbolically, I would not pick up the phone when 267 or 610 or 215 comes up on my caller ID. I wouldn't pick the phone up anymore. This guy he works wonders with the cap. No wonder the league's trying to, shut this thing down. And now he's able to facilitate a trade that would send Bryce Huff to the 49ers listen, I would have taken anything to get Bryce Huff, any portion of Bryce Huff's salary off this team. And listen, it didn't work out. It didn't work out. It's unfortunate. The Phillies, the Eagles spent money last offseason to try to bring in Bryce Huff to be a premier edge rusher, and it didn't work out. Sometimes those things happen. But the Eagles also spent premier money, and sorry, this is not the PHLY Eagles podcast. You'll get an hour's worth of it in about 12 minutes. The Eagles also spent some big money on James Bradberry, and then he ended up not being productive. The difference between what James Bradberry did, James Bradberry was a consummate professional. They told James Bradberry, hey, bro, you're not playing. And James Bradberry said, okay, I'll play coach. I'll get the young guys ready. I'll get Cooper DeJean ready. I'll get Keely Ringo ready. I'll get Quinyon Mitchell ready. I cannot say enough good things about James Bradberry. Meanwhile, Bryce Huff, who lost snap counts because Vic Fangio said, dude, you stink. You're not playing this year. You're not getting to the quarterback, and it's the only thing you do well. Bryce Huff doesn't want to show up to OTAs. Bryce Huff doesn't want to be here. The Eagles said, fine, we'll facilitate a trade. And Howie Roseman's able to get it done. And I forget who it was in the chat. Oh, Peel and Onions. Yes, Bryce Huff and Robert Saleh have a connection. Robert Saleh now back with the 49ers as the defensive coordinator. They have a connection with their time with the Jets. Like, I wouldn't be stunned if Bryce Huff has a decent year next year under Saleh's scheme. But it clearly wasn't working here. And if the option were to eat the cap or to make a trade, what an awesome move for the Phillies. What an awesome move for the Eagles. All right, we have one more ad break to hit here, and then I'm going to tell you about why I think I have a bone to pick with baseball, and I want to get to our Discord conversation as well as we wrap up today's show. But let's pause for just a moment on the PHLY Phillies podcast. All right, let's talk about Empire today, the premier flooring experts. You want to talk about experts? We talked about Howie Roseman being an expert GM. Well, Empire is the expert flooring team. They have dedicated flooring professionals who focus solely on flooring every single day. We've all been to the big box stores and you wander the aisles aimlessly, and maybe you get some help, maybe you don't, but the help comes from somebody who was working in hardware the day before or outdoor maybe before that. With Empire today, from start to finish, you get the pros who that's all they do is flooring. They are the best bet for new floors. They live and breathe floors, and they're going to be with you every step of the way. They're flooring experts. Bring the showroom right to your home. They're going to help you pick out the right flooring and the right color for your space, and you can see how it looks with your furniture in your house. You're going to get precise measurements taken, and they'll answer all of your questions expertly, so you have no issues and no problems. And speaking about no issues and no worries, all upfront pricing with Empire today, so you don't have to worry about any hidden fees or anything like that. Empire is going to shoot you straight, and they're going to tell you exactly what they're going to charge and what they're going to offer, and they're going to give you the expert advice along the way. So schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. PHLY listeners can receive $350 discount when they use the promo code PHLY. Restrictions do apply. Visit Empire today/PHLY for full details. And speaking about giving out great deals, the PHLY Diehard Summer Sale is extended for exactly 1 day. Because we want to be awesome. I kid. We want you to get the best deal possible. And our $36 Diehard Summer Flash Sale is live now. It's more than 50% off for your first year of Diehard access. Now, this intro offer is only available. It was originally only available through last night. Now it's only available through tonight. So make sure you jump on it while you can. You'll get incredible written content from some of the best writers in the city. I brought up Zach Berman. His articles are there. Charlie O'Connor, Kyle Neubeck, Derek Bodner, Bo Wolf, Les Bowen, Pat Egan, Bob Cooney, Jim Salisbury, all of our excellent writers you can find with our PHLY Diehard exclusive membership. But it's not just about written content. 20% off events, 20% off of merch as well, and of course that exclusive content and access to our Diehard channel as well. And of course you're going to get that free shirt when you sign up. So head on over to allphly.com/intro for a $36 Diehard Summer Flash Sale and become a Diehard today. All right. Joey and I have compiled, I put out on our Discord, which again, you can get access to if you're a Diehard member. I put out on our Discord a question that was simply, through the first 2 months, who is the most valuable Philly and who is the most valuable player to the Philadelphia Phillies? I also posted it on Twitter, and I compiled some responses. And I did not see the responses other than knowing that they were in our Discord. So Joey compiled these and put these together, and I want to take a look at some of these. I asked our Discord, who is the most valuable Philly through the first 2 months? Here's what Discord had to say. Let's show the first one. Philly Dan in Media says, JT Realmuto, while his bat has not been great, he is an elite defensive catcher and leading the best staff in baseball. Pitching wins in baseball, and he affects the staff more than other player. I've talked about JT a lot over the last couple of weeks. JT has struggled enormously at the plate. He's not hitting left-handed pitching. I think he's hitting about 230 overall as an offensive player. But there is merit to say that JT has had command of this pitching staff. They trust JT behind the plate. He's an expert at pop time. He is consistently in the top 5 in terms of pop time down to first base. And in fact, he's second this year amongst qualified catchers with at least 10 throws. So I don't agree with JT because I think the offense has lacked enough, but I understand the reasoning behind it. I am not going to put JT in that category, but JT commands the respect of the best starting pitching staff in baseball and has done an excellent job with the pitching staff so far. All right, let's check in on the next one, Joe. Dr. Blah says it's Kyle. Don't think it's close. Luzardo has been good in theory. That kind of production should be expected from a guy with a big contract who is currently on the IL. And obviously, Dr. Blah is alluding to Aaron Nola. Jesus Luzardo has been excellent so far this year. Jesus Luzardo has exceeded all of our expectations. I expected a good year from Jesus Luzardo. Bounce back from injury, get with Caleb Cotham, be in a pitching staff that does not demand you to be the ace, instead ask you to be the 3 or the 4. Jesus Luzardo has been more than that. Jesus Luzardo has been the Phillies 2 so far this year. And that's not a slight to Sanchez. It's not a slight to Ranger. It's not a slight to even Taijuan Walker, who's been excellent. But Jesus Luzardo has been amongst baseball's elite so far through his first 11 starts. A 2.15 ERA, a 6-0 record. He's not lost as a member of the Phillies, and he has kept them in every single ball game so far. Excellent choice, but the answer to Dr. Blah's question was Kyle Schwarber, and I think Kyle Schwarber is going to come up a lot. He has been the ultimate catalyst for this team, and Josh Katz agrees. Schwarber, without a doubt. Schwarber, Luzardo, Wheeler, Turner would be the top 4. After that, it's hard to differentiate. Alvarado would have been number 3 before the suspension. I think you're going to see Schwarber come up a lot in this exercise. Kyle Schwarber, I have used the word catalyst time and time and time again to describe Kyle Schwarber. This year, he's hitting 252. He has 19 home runs. He's second in the National League. I believe he's now 4th in all of baseball. 41 RBI. He has walked 43 times in 53 games. He's cut down on the strikeouts. He's down to just at about 1 per game. His on-base percentage is nearly 400, and his OPS is just shy of 1 at 963. Kyle Schwarber has been the best hitter for the Phillies, not just this year, I think last year too. But Kyle Schwarber's an answer that I expect to come up a lot. Let's check in on the next one. Arturo Bueno on Twitter says, Schwarber, best version of him, better average and slug from last season, low chase rate, and nukes. When Kyle Schwarber hits the ball hard, my God, does he hit the ball hard. And you saw it again yesterday in the first game. He hit an absolute tank to the upper deck. His average exit velocity across baseball has been amongst baseball's elite, as it usually is. But this year, his average exit velocity is in the 95th percentile. His barrel rates in the 95th percentile. His hard hit percentage in the 99th percentile. Kyle Schwarber is hitting almost 60% of his batted balls hard this year. Bat speed, of course, is always elite. Chase rate, as was mentioned by Arturo, 93rd percentile, and his walk rate and his eye are always in the elite category. All right, let's check in on the next one. Wes says, must be a short pod on Friday. It's Schwarber for the everyday players. Pitching, you have a debate between Wheeler and Luzardo. Yeah, I think that I'm not going to argue with you on Wes on that one. You're spot on. The answers to that question are either Kyle Schwarber, or Wheeler and Luzardo for the starting staff. I don't have no notes, no complaints, 100% spot on. Any more, Joe? Jamie Lynch checks in. Kyle Schwarber, if he wasn't in the lineup, things would be much worse. His importance to the lineup is more important to any one of the Phillies' best starting pitchers. And this is a conversation where you talk about the everyday player versus the pitcher and why it's very, very difficult for a pitcher to win the MVP. And in fact, if you think about the MVP over baseball, since we can let's go back to 2000. I believe now Shohei Ohtani is different, right? Because he's a dual player. So Shohei Ohtani excluded from the conversation. He, of course, has 3 MVPs already. Not considering Shohei Ohtani, strictly pitchers. The last pitcher to win an MVP award was Clayton Kershaw in 2014. Before that, Justin Verlander in 2011. And before that, you have to go all the way back to, I'm still scrolling. You have to go all the way back to Dennis Eckersley in 1992. Pitchers don't win MVPs. So if you're talking about most valuable player, more times than not, it is a position player. And to me, the answer to this question is Kyle Schwarber. All right, I'm going to check in with the comments on the YouTube chat in just a second. But before we do that, I want to say thank you to everybody who tuned in on our streaming services, on Roku, on Samsung, whatever the case may be. Head on over to allphly.com to watch the rest of the show because it is time for overtime. All right, let's head into our overtime segment. I got a bone to pick with Major League Baseball. And it's kind of simple. And it's not just, it's helped the Phillies at times. It's hurt the Phillies at times in terms of stats and things like that. My question is nothing an error anymore? Are there no errors in baseball anymore? Is everything ruled a hit? Official scorers are pissing me off, quite frankly. And I tweeted this out in the day game of yesterday's doubleheader. Trey Turner hit a ball yesterday. And listen, it helped Trey Turner statistically. It helped the Phillies statistically. The Phillies ended up, Trey Turner gets another hit and he gets an RBI out of it. But he hit a ball at Austin Riley. And the ball was hit at, let's find where this ball was hit. Ball was hit at 87 miles an hour. It had an expected batting average of 490, but this is a ball that Austin Riley, I think, should have caught. And it was ruled a base hit. And I'm not entirely sure how. But it's just one of many that I have questioned over the years. And I have questioned over this year specifically. And if you listen to the Phillies broadcast on the radio, it's something that Scott Fransky and Larry Anderson talk about a lot. Why are we coddling defenders at this point? If you butcher a baseball, it's an error. And it should be an error. And I don't understand why at this point official scorers are so lax with giving out errors at this point. I don't understand it. So I went back and I looked. I said, I have to imagine that official scoring was more strict a decade ago, 5 years ago, even a few seasons ago. So I went back and I looked. And I wanted to know team fielding percentages across Major League Baseball and what they are, what the highs and lows have been. Do you know that the Phillies right now have the best team ERA, the best team fielding percentage in all of baseball at 990? I would have never guessed it, but they do. 990 fielding percentage. Across all of baseball. That is the high in 2022. Now, it's not a far cry from what highs were, across the other years, right? Or 2025. What they were in other years, or 2022, or 2020, or 2016. But where I draw a problem is the fact that this season, the Phillies lead at 990. There are 10 teams across Major League Baseball that have a 988 fielding percentage or better. The Phillies, the Cardinals, the Rangers, the Rays, the Royals, the Braves, the Tigers, the Mariners, the Yankees, and the Dodgers all have a 988 fielding percentage or better. That's a third of baseball is within 2 percentage points of each other. And I know it's only 60 games in. There's a lot of games left to play. But that, to me, seems like a lot of teams. So I went back and I looked. How many teams had a 990 fielding percentage in 2022? The answer is 0. How many teams had 988 or better in 2022? 5. That number's cut in half from just 3 years ago. I went and looked all the way back to 2016 because I just randomly picked a number. That answer goes down to 2. And in fact, there were only 6 teams with a 987 fielding percentage or better. Most teams fell 986 or worse. I don't quite understand where this march towards everything is a hit has come into play. But these are major league players. These are professional ball players who should make the routine plays routinely. A 990 fielding percentage as a team is kind of crazy. To have 10 teams across Major League Baseball through the first 60-plus games or almost 60 games, be it above at 988 or above, it seems pretty off base to me. And Cleveland John points it out. Says, when I go to games, I keep score, and it's almost every other game where I score something in error, and it's officially a hit. It's whack. Whack's a good word to use. I don't get it. And listen, this is not like this is me on my soapbox. This is why we did this in overtime, because I'm up on my pedestal like old man yells at clouds. But I guess this is my old man yells at clouds moment. I just don't understand how everything's a hit anymore. I sit and I watch games, and I watch a lot of games with my wife. I watch some games with my dad, text back and forth with buddies. I watch, I tweet, and I interact with you all on Twitter. And it seems like every fan is in agreement or close to it. I don't get, that's an error. Oh, no, official score ruled it a double. What? Expected batting average was 180. That's not a double to me. That's called an error, my friend. So that was just my point of contention with Major League Baseball. And Ray, you're probably right. There is probably a point to beefing up offensive numbers more so than not hurting feelings. You're probably right. Offense sells. And if somebody were to look at a box score and say, hey man, the Phillies tacked on 7 runs on, or for example, last night, now this didn't come into play, but if you say, hey, the Phillies tacked on 6 earned runs against Zack Wheeler, or the Braves tacked on 6 earned runs against Zack Wheeler, or the Braves had 2 earned runs, and scored 6. If you're just box score watching, that's going to come into play. I think you're probably right in that regard, Ray Schumacher. Our Mets fan is back with the same joke again, with the same joke for the 15th time in a row. Goodness gracious. Here we are. Happy Friday to you, everyday Mets. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy it. That's going to wrap up today's show. Thank you to everybody who was in the chat today. It was a very lively chat from Ray Schumacher, Filthy McNasty, K-Red, Cleveland John, Peelin' Onions, Mopar, Pat Ryan, Woody Buzz. Who else was in the chat earlier? Yes, our Mets friend. John Coles, Philly Sports Enjoyer. Thank you to everybody who tuned in today. It was a very lively discussion in the chat. Appreciate you all. Thank you to our Discord for providing us some of those answers. And a big thank you, of course, to Joey for producing today's show. Switch on over to the PHLY Eagles podcast. I'm sure they're now talking about the Bryce Huff news as it has just broken. I'm sure they had to kind of pivot their show a little bit. They'll be going from 2 to 3. PHLY Sixers will wrap up Friday's show, Friday's festivities at 3 o'clock. We'll be back on Monday for a PHLY Phillies live broadcast. We'll talk to Bob Cooney. We'll talk about this Brewers series as it unfolds, and we'll get you set for the series against the Toronto Blue Jays. So have an excellent weekend. Enjoy it. I hope the weather holds out, because all it's done over the last 2 weeks is rain. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and a safe weekend, and we'll talk to you here at 1 o'clock right here on the PHY Phillies podcast on Monday. See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.